Yello, this is MDR. Welcome to a new series. This is one that I've been wanting to do for quite a while, but I thought maybe it'll be good if I started this with a new year. A new year, a new series. I don't know, it just felt right. And that's because it's based around monthly stuff. It's basically a document of everything that I've seen in the past month. Now, initially, I wanted to do this in a scripted manner. But then I realized that the podcast that I did last year called the Impromptu Pod, which had its short run, not because it wasn't successful, it was actually the most successful thing that I was doing at the time. Because my channel was pulling in 100 to 200 views on every video, but some of the podcasts had gotten over 900 to almost 1,000 views on a weekly basis. But what it made me realize was that I was not able to focus on the main videos as much as I was just enjoying doing those podcasts. And I didn't want to change the focus of the channel at the time. So I just left it as it is. But now I've brought it back in a very strange kind of manner. Because in a way, what I'm doing here with this monthly series is in itself a podcast. But in another way, it is not. Because what you'll be seeing here is basically a nice recommendation list or just, a monthly recap of whatever I've watched in the past month. Now, I do make videos on mostly SRK films, on Indian films, and here and there I mention, something like James Cameron or Martin Scorsese. But as you might have noticed, that I probably see films from all over the world. And that's just my passion. I love cinema. And I watch probably, really everything that I can get my hands on. So I thought, why would it not be a cool thing to document the films that I've seen in the previous month at the end of that month? You know what I mean? Well, it'll still be the current month. Now, going back to my point that I wanted to do this in a scripted manner, but I'm not doing it because I thought I could inherit what I learned from that podcast series that I did last year and implement it in a clever way where it's still a nice video where I'm talking about all these films. So it is part of the movie detective run thing, but it's not just a audio, basically it's just not an animation of how my audio is going up and down. But you can see visuals in the films, scenes that I really remember, or stuff that I really like. And I heard that some of the people really like my voice, which is surprising to me. But a couple of people have been rather nice in the comments saying that they like my voice and they find it cozy and, soothing. I think one word said, which is really, really surprising to me because I don't think my voice is soothing at all. But if you find it soothing, well, this is probably good for you because now you can play this in the background or do whatever you like, study, play, music, I don't know, and you can play this in the background and just sit and enjoy and probably see recommendations for films that you might not seen because those are the kind of films that I like to see more of than popular cinema. And just kind of enjoy these things, that are existing, but we don't really focus a lot on. So I thought, why not do this, Why not utilize every single film that I see and kind of document it in a very, non-fashionable manner, just as a list. This is what I saw. This is what I saw. This is what I liked. This is what I didn't like that. So let's begin the list. In January, at least, I have seen quite a bunch of stuff. And that's only because my habit is to usually watch about 7 to 10 films in a month, at least. Sometimes the list goes up to 15. But usually what has been happening is ever since the end of November, I had an unfortunate incident happen with me, which caused me to be really slow with the making of my content and also with the making of all this, also doing the stuff that I used to do, I have not been able to do a lot of. So what I've been doing in January is basically watching tons of films, working on the channel, and just, loving it. Well, the first film I saw was at the end of December. Now you might say, well, that's quite a plot hole. But no, it's not. It's just in a transitional manner that I've done it. Because the last week, really, I can't include as much as I would like to. So every episode that would come at the end of every month would have some movies from the previous month of the transitional week from the previous month to the next month. I hope it makes sense. I hope I'm not just saying gibberish. Even if I am, you're liking it. Come on. Well, In the Deep Woods is the first film I saw this month. Or at the end of December, again. And In the Deep Woods is a very bizarre film. I mean, I have to say that it's just one of those films that just kind of leaves you with a bizarre feeling, not afterwards, but just while you're even watching it. Just the previous scene as it ends, you're already feeling strange, and the next scene is even more weirder. I saw this film only because of Anthony Perkins. I went on Anthony Perkins' IMDb page and saw what was the last film he ever did. The last film, it said, was In the Deep Woods. At least it was the last one to be released. And really, it is not the greatest last film for an actor. But then Anthony Perkins has, always chosen very bizarre, hypersexual, films with a lot of, incest sexual undertones and just bizarre stuff. I mean, I don't know, His films just leave you kind of feeling strange, but you can't help it but just watch it for him. You watch his films for him. He's the only Hollywood actor that has made me go he's a star, because I want to watch his films for himself and not any other reason. The story can be anything, but my main focus is that I'm watching Anthony Perkins. Like I would watch Salman Khan on the big screen, or I would watch Shah Rukh Khan on the big screen. Just an actor, and you're watching the film for that reason. The setup for this film is a bit strange. I'm just gonna read it from the IMDb page here, because I want to keep it as concise as possible, because if I start, then I'll start rambling on. A woman fears that the private detective she's been conversing with may be the killer who murdered her beloved friend and dumped her corpse in the forest. Now, this is quite an interesting summary, because the film largely does not even focus on any of this stuff. Yes, there is a murder. Yes, there is a private detective. Actually, there's two of them, from what it seems like at least. And yes, there's a lot of stuff going on in the side that actually takes on the main story more than any of the stuff that the film's synopsis or summary reads here on IMDb. Now, the bizarre thing is that it only has 693 reviews on IMDb, so this is certainly not a popular film. But if you go onto the profiles of each of these actors, like Rosa Arquette, she's in the top 5,000 actors right now, even till, in 2023, she's still in the top 5,000 actors, so she's pretty popular. And, Anthony Perkins has always been popular, but he still is ranking in the same ranks. He's also in the top 5,000, despite the fact that he died in 1992. Talk about legacy, right? I am a new fan of his, so, you could count me in for that. But I watched this film solely for Anthony Perkins. I did not care who the actress in this film was. And to be honest, Rosanna Arquette didn't really stand out that much to me. Her role seemed like it could have been done by, any actress out there. Something that will be countered in the next film that I'll be talking about. But yeah, Rosanna Arquette didn't really impress me that much, although I think she did a fair job on her role. It could have been worse than it was. It was actually just alright acting from her. Nothing that stood out to me. But Anthony Perkins had such a short role that it was almost like he just did a guest appearance in this film. At most, I think I can only remember him having 2 to 3 scenes in the entire film, including the climax, 2 scenes before that maybe, and that's about it, I guess. But yeah, that was the entire appearance that he makes, but he makes an impressionable appearance. As soon as he's on to the screen, he's on the screen, it's just something you just have to see. He's just so fascinating to watch. As more and more of Rosanna Arquette's friends are turning up dead, at least one of them, I can't really remember right now. I know it's only been a month, but the film wasn't really that interesting to have me remember all of it. Anyways, so as her friends turn up dead, Anthony Perkins shows up in her life and seems to be following her quite a bit here and there, and says that he's a private detective whose daughter has also been murdered, and that's why he wants to see what the case is about. Now, the weird thing is that this murder thing, this entire thing going on, kind of turns into a very bizarre turn. I know I've been saying bizarre a lot in this episode, but, you can take it or leave it, I guess. Hey, please don't leave it. Anyway, as her friend turns up dead, Anthony Perkins is like, well, he killed my daughter as well. I wonder if that's a good impression. But he says that, and then, of course, Rosanna and him, they both talk and they both converse, and then Anthony's character starts hinting more and more that it might be her brother who's done this. Now, the weird thing is that in the beginning of the film, when the brother and the sister are introduced, it almost seems like they're a couple. And at first I was like, whoa, that's just my mind being bizarre, I guess. But no, it's actually something that the film hints a lot during the duration. But what is weird is, and spoiler alert, the end of the film just says that he's jealous of her or something like that. That he's envious. I mean, it's just, I was like, maybe he's going to say that he was in love with her. And that's going to be the conclusion. But of course, because she is his sister, that relationship cannot happen. But the fact that he says that he's envious and that he never got any attention, all that stuff just came out to be a very disappointing end to the film. It's not that I would want to write that film in that way, but it was something that the film hinted at the audience itself. Don't hint it if you're not gonna play on it, If you're gonna play on it, then at least show us what it's gonna be. At least bring us to that climax where what you're making us expect is what's gonna happen. Or if you're gonna turn it around on us and make us look like fools, then you gotta do it in the same way like Fight Club does it. Where the plot twist is so amazing that you're just in such a state of shock that you don't even feel like a fool, you're just amazed by what just happened. Your psyche has been completely played upon. But In the Deep Woods does none of this and actually fails to even tell a coherent story. Even one that can be, comprehensively summarized somewhere. And that's why maybe the IMDb page is so wrong as well in trying to summarize what the movie is about. I honestly don't know what that movie is about. I spent 1.5 hours watching it. It's a pretty short film, so if you can grab it, you should go watch it. I would recommend where to watch what film, but because the audience of this channel seems to be from all over, the globe. I know it's not a big channel yet, but the audience graph shows to be from India, from UK, from America, and all these places, and a lot of the Middle East, which I'm really happy for. A lot of Europe is there, so I'm trying to cover the entire globe basically, and that's where it's leading. So it's a nice thing. So it's hard to recommend where you could find this film, but if you could, I would recommend just give it one watch if you're into watching thrillers and stuff, but don't expect anything revolutionary. Don't expect anything amazing. Don't expect anything that's going to change your life. But yeah, it's an alright film. Let's move on. The second film I saw this month was Remember My Name. Now, this is a 1978 film. A lot of people say that they've heard of this film, and that's probably because of the title itself, because it says Remember My Name. It's a popular catchphrase. It's used in a lot of places, so people always think that they've heard of the film. But when you go and look up about the film, it doesn't seem like a lot of people have seen it. I don't know if you have seen it or not, but this is one film that I would recommend watching. This is certainly better than In the Deep Woods. Now, I saw the Turner Classic Movies edition of this film, and I have to say, honestly, this film is something. It could have been definitely loads better. But even as what it is, the unique piece of cinema that it is amazing. Geraldine Chaplin, the daughter of Charlie Chaplin, is the main actress here, and she plays spectacularly. It often so happens that daughters or sons of comedic actors usually take on very serious roles. They take on rather almost psychotic roles, and that's because comedy has always been linked with tragedy so much. In fact, the origins of comedy, as I know them, have also come from tragedy. Tragedy existed before than comedy, and comedy was the direct result of tragedy, because tragedy was something sad, and comedy was the opposite of it. So it was a direct result of it with the times as they followed. At least this is what I have known, or has been my interpretation while I was studying about this stuff. But, anyways, Geraldine Chaplin here plays a woman who has been recently released from prison. And she goes on and starts stalking this married person who is played by Anthony Perkins, whose wife's character is actually played by Anthony Perkins' real wife, Barry Berenson, a photographer who was doing some acting, but then later turned into I don't know. She just gave up acting, and she had a horrible end to her life in the 9/11 tragic event. But I mean, the whole Perkins family is just almost like a dark cloud over them. It's just really sad. Even with Perkins, he died of AIDS, as I know. Just horrible, like two of the biggest problems maybe in the latter half of 20th century and then going on into the 21st century, 9/11 and AIDS, So anyways, this film came out in 1978. Now, this is a time where Perkins had fallen through in his career. He was supposed to be the next star, the next big star. And then he never got to that level because all the films that Paramount made him do, I think they signed him for 4 films when he was coming up as a young actor. And all the 4 films that they produced with him, they invested about $15 million in the guy, as I know. And by the way, all the facts that I state here are from my memory of things that I've seen. So if they're a bit here and there, please ignore that. But there is truth to everything that I'm saying. Anyways, Anthony Perkins had been invested a lot of money into by Paramount. And because all the films they made him do didn't do well, he went on to do a lot of indie films, and this was a film by Alan Rudolph. He's never been that popular, but he has made some cult classic films that are popular in the, the weird markets of filmmaking and stuff. But, I mean, I haven't seen any of the other films by Alan Rudolph. I would love to. But this one in itself is a pretty good example of an okay thriller. This is a very slow film. It's always building up to something. Even in its climax, it's a build-up to what could potentially happen in the next film, after the movie has ended. But Remember My Name, I mean, it's just a whole weird film. Basically, this woman is trying to seduce this guy, and we don't know if they have a history or not, but later on it turns out, and spoiler alert, that they did have a history, that he used to be in a relationship with her, that he even cheated on her perhaps, and that there was a murder of some kind for which she took the blame, or maybe she committed that murder itself for him. And when she comes out, she finds out that this guy is married now. So in the beginning, we find her character to be really, really creepy. I mean, just the visual of her, there's no soul in her eyes, and she's just got that look about her. She has such a striking look, not starking look. She has such a striking look that you never forget her face if you've seen it once. And if you watch the film knowing that this is the daughter of Charlie Chaplin, it makes even a greater impact because Charlie Chaplin was such a impactful actor. A lot of people know him for his comedy, but I've always seen him for just the conviction with which he did something. And that's the kind of conviction that she brings to the table as well, especially in this one particular scene in which she has invaded the house of this couple. And the woman is alone there, not knowing that this woman is here, right in their house. And she's touring around the house, and it's a long, long scene. And I think it's probably just 2 shots. I don't know if it is just the one shot. I think it is 2 shots. And she's just roaming around the house, checking out her clothing. And she asks her weird questions when she does face her. And as soon as Barry Berenson's character tries to revolt, she has such a creepy response. I mean, that scene alone just makes the film for me. I would have loved for this film to have had a better ending, but the ending that it does have makes a lot of sense. Now, because this woman was in prison for so long a time, she does not want to do the same for Anthony by getting him into a real prison. What she wants to do is to get him into the prison of his own mind. And what she does then is, by the end, seduce him, and then the very next morning she locks him up in this apartment and he's left alone, just as it is. And he's trapped in there. And we see these grills as the camera pans out, which reminds us of the same grills of, a prison bar. And in these dreams that she has about that time, it just makes so much sense that all this stuff is happening. And it explains why she has such a rude behavior, such a straightforward behavior with all the people she's working with and all this stuff. We think that she's psychotic. We think that she is obsessive. But she is not. Instead, it is Anthony Perkins' character who has been that, and who has betrayed her, who has betrayed her trust and everything else, that accounts for a relationship between two people. The very fact that he probably made her take the blame for a murder that he might have committed, especially when he was cheating on her, that in itself is so much of a betrayal that any other woman in her senses would just be like, all right, I'm leaving, and I'm probably going to go to the police station and report what you just told me. But she takes the blame for all this stuff. And in return, all she expects is to reunite with him. And when she finds out that he has moved on, that he has got a house, he's got a wife, he's got a car, and he's doing this construction job, and he's doing pretty fine for himself, it is not something that's going to go. And the only character that you feel sorry for at the end of the film is first Geraldine Chaplin's character. I think her name is Emily. And the character of Barry Berenson. And that's because she is just kind of put into the situation in an unfair manner. It's because of Anthony Perkins' character's fault that all this is happening to her. And what she does is she becomes more and more manly as the film goes on, and by the end she's doing this little smoke and she's wearing manly clothes. It's just a suggestion that she's kind of replaced Anthony Perkins' existence in that house. That's how that's how replaceable he is as a person, in her life at least. And it's just a heartbreak that she's gone through, and this is her reaction to it. But what's weird is that as the film ends, because Anthony Perkins' character does not make an attempt to get out, that is the creepy thing. You would think that after all this, he would try to do something like that, but then the film's title rings in your head, Remember My Name. He's gonna always remember her name now. He's gonna remember what happened. All the characters' life that she came into, even the side characters, they're gonna always remember her, because she made such an impact in their life, whether positive or negative, mostly negative in all of them. I mean, she beats up, I think, one of her co-workers. She completely rants and insults her boss. She just makes an impact in everybody's life. Even the security guard guy who she's in a fake relationship with, even he is left desolate because of her. So everybody's life that she enters, everybody's going to remember her name. And it's, I think, really bizarre that I don't remember the name of any other character in the film, but I remember the name Emily. So in a way, the film succeeds because it's called Remember My Name. And guess what? I do remember her name. And now you will too. What just happened? Let's move on. So, because at about this time I'd seen two pretty grim movies, starring both with Anthony Perkins, I thought, why don't I move on to something different, something completely, opposite of that. So I went all over the way to Bollywood and I watched a 2012 romantic comedy starring Imran Khan and Kareena Kapoor Khan called Ek Main Aur Ek Tu. Now, this is a film that I'd known about even as a child because I had heard its songs and I always thought that it was very, very, very catchy. The entire album. I remember there was a party song with an auntie in it. And it just sounded all pretty good. But I never saw the movie itself because I thought it'd be a pretty generic romantic comedy and, well, they really slapped my face into this one. I was completely wrong. This is one of the best, if not in my top 5 romantic comedies of all time. For the sole reason of just how brilliantly it is told, the story of the film. The comedy is just amazing. See, I'm stuttering a bit here because I get so excited just thinking about the film. It's only 1 hour 50 to 55 minutes long, so it doesn't even cross the 2 hour threshold. It's shot like an absolute masterpiece. The cameras are exactly where you would want to place them, where you could see the characters in complete, expressions, and it's just the scenery of the film as well. Like everything, they just get it so right. I honestly have no criticism for this film, but I would like to tell you how I came about watching this movie. Well, because I've been working on this long-term project for a while called The Rise and Fall of Imran Khan. I know there have been a few Rise and Fall videos out there, but I want to make one from my own perspective, from my own experience around Imran Khan. Now, he hasn't done a lot of films. I've seen a bunch of his films, and honestly, I like some of the films he's done, like Delhi Belly and certainly now Ek Main Aur Ek Tu. But I didn't expect that I would like this film this much. This shot it up right from, I don't even know if that's a word. This shot up from like one of the best romance comedies I've seen to my top 10 romance comedies, now to my top 5. It certainly won't be the number 1 ever, because that to me is Kal Ho Na Ho. But it is certainly there, maybe 3, 4, I don't know what rank yet. But it's certainly one of the best romantic comedies I've ever seen. And that's because it's told in such a very nice way that its entire story is in reverse. The film begins with a marriage and ends with a friendship. Usually the opposite happens in romantic comedies. And it's something that you don't see coming because it's all done so naturally. There's an accidental marriage between two of these people in Vegas, and then they kind of build it back, showing how they become friends. And in the end, it says the beginning. Spoiler alert after I've said it, because kind of suits what I'm talking about here in reverse. But it's just honestly one of the best films. You should just really, really see it. Even if you think you won't like it, even if you think that, it looks pretty generic, that is something that I will say. That it looks pretty generic. That it was marketed like a generic romance comedy, and probably that's why it was faulted. I don't know if it was a very successful film, or if it was not a very successful film, but I never see its name come up in any cult classic romance comedies. But hey, it'll be the first one here. I guess it'll appear in MDR's list. So yeah, definitely one of the best films I've seen in a long, long time. And I can't wait to rewatch it. I think I'm gonna do it after a while, maybe, when I just take on working on the Rise and Fall Imran Khan projects, because right now I'm watching his movies once in a while. Every week I'm trying to watch one so that I can complete all his films in 8 to 9 weeks. That's about 2 to 2.5 months. So maybe you could expect to see that video around Feb or March if everything goes alright as I'm planning it, which it never does, but then that's life. Anyways, let's move on to the next film. The fourth film that I saw this month was The Unsaid. Now, this is a bizarre film because I usually don't watch films starring Andy Garcia because I never really thought much of the guy. I always thought that he was rather good looking. He had his own look going. He looked like a star. He looked like he was the next Al Pacino, Robert De Niro. Although I do know that he never shot up to that kind of fame, but he is certainly one of, he gives out that aura. And maybe that's because he did so many gangster films as well. He was in The Godfather 3, he was in The Untouchables alongside De Niro. I mean, he's done a number of gangster films, but what I like him in are the weirder films that he's done. He's done a lot of mystery films, a lot of thrillers, and that's something that I only got to know as I watched more and more of his films. He's done a lot of police thrillers, and he's done a lot of mystery thrillers, settings in small towns and stuff. I didn't know that January would turn out to be the month where I'd be obsessed with Andy Garcia more than Anthony Perkins. That's never been a case with me. But I don't know, maybe that's just how you get into people, and that's how you just start discovering their entire library. And the thing is, this is how I operate on a daily basis. What I do is I just naturally fall into things. I have so deep of an interest into somebody that I literally scrutinize everything about them until I think that I know enough. And then once in a while I go back to them and I analyze the little tidbits left. And that's kind of how I function. That's been the case with SRK, with Salman Khan, with James Cameron, with Stanley Kubrick, with Andrei Tarkovsky, with Kurosawa, with Wong Kar-wai, with oh, sorry, I'm saying that for the second time. With Tony Perkins, with Tom Cruise, with, well, now, Andy Garcia. I like the underrated stuff more. I like people and actors who are left not always shooting up to that fame, not always getting that complete respect, but then I try to get them that respect. That's what I like. That's why in the longer run, I've also got these two projects on Anthony Perkins, actor analysis, and also on Mr. Andy Garcia. I've been wanting to do an actor analysis for a long, long time, but I just don't know what actor to go with. Maybe, just maybe, I'll start with Imran Khan, then I'll do a rise and fall of Imran Khan, and then I can probably down the line do an Andy Garcia one. The thing is, Andy Garcia is still doing films, and I like to cover people more who have done their best part in that time. That's why I do a lot of classic films. So, I mean, I don't know, we'll see. But The Unsaid is a very weird mystery thriller film. Now, the funny thing is that this is probably the longest I took to watch a film. I've been trying to watch this film for the past 1.5 months almost. And the funny thing is, I put it up and I would watch it for 7-8 minutes, then I couldn't sit through it. I would troll it very harshly. I would laugh at every serious scene. I would just basically rip the movie apart and just, I don't know what I was doing, but it was very fun for me. And that's because the film looks like a B movie. It looks like a low budget thriller film that's trying to be very serious, that's trying to be very philosophical, that's trying to be the film that Shawshank Redemption is, that's trying to be the film that maybe, I don't know, Fight Club is, that Seven is. It's certainly not that kind of a film, but it certainly got a Twin Peaks kind of vibe. Now, Twin Peaks started its own thing. It created this bizarre feeling that would somehow have these dark events going on, and then you would still feel pretty cozy. I don't know, it just gave you a bizarre feel. I certainly did not find that in the third season of Twin Peaks, and maybe that's because of the modern cameras, that it took away that foggy, grainy look and gave it a lot of sharpness and definition that I really could not suit well with. That's probably why I don't like a lot of modern films, and that's a lot to do with how they visually look. If they had a bit more of film grain and did not look like music videos for Justin Bieber or, I don't know, some other artist, I don't know, and I see a lot of that only in films that are trying to look so modern, that are trying to look so epic. You cannot get the epic look if you do not go back to the olden ways. I'm not saying put out those old cameras. I'm just saying that give it more of a film look. Give it a visual aesthetic. Give it its own feel. Just don't capture the world around it. Don't capture the guy's face. Don't just point the camera at him and let him speak. Create a feel, create a moment, create an ambience that's lacking in modern films. And that's something that a film like The Unsaid does have. So despite its faults, despite its bizarre way of telling its story, despite its weird flashbacks and stuff, it still has such a cozy feel, even in its dark mood. It captures your attention. And that's what makes a film like this. Because trust me, if this film had been done by somebody like James Cameron, it would have been just complete mess. It's not a very epic kind of film. It's a story of a father who loses his son to a very, very horrible event that he, self-inflicts. And then he has to cope up with that, and he's assigned this young man who is almost a spitting image of his son if you blinked your eye. And he just has to somehow differentiate that young man who is supposedly charged with the murder of his own mother. It's said to be, even though his father is in jail, but it's probable that he was the one who took the life of his own mother. That's the story of the movie, and he has to differentiate, but then that kid is using this professor's daughter, dating her secretly, and trying to extract information out of her, so you don't really know what's going on here. And even till the last moment almost, you don't know what's going on here. And that's because of the genius ending of the film. I honestly have to say that the ending of the film is what made it for me. I remember that I would turn it on, laugh for about 7-8 minutes, and that's how I watched the first half of the movie. The first 40 minutes or something. But then the last the last hour of the film, how I watched it was, I just didn't know what to watch that day. And I was like, you know what? I'm not feeling very well physically. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put on a movie. I'm probably going to put on the unsaid, make a few jokes, and that'll be it. And that's what I did. And guess what happened? I watched till the end. And I was blown away by the ending. Not because it's a special ending or anything, and spoiler alert again. In the ending, what happens is, after all these secrets are revealed and all the stuff, you go into this room. And in this room, the kid is sitting there. It's a very dark, gloomy, grey, lifeless room. Monochromatic almost. And you see the professor, who's played by Andy Garcia. And you see the young man there. And they're playing balls, and which is what they were doing, earlier in the film. And you almost think to yourself, this could be a, room where he's being probably kept in, treated, so that he could meet with the professor. But this could also be the afterlife. Who knows, And in the ending, that's what it suggests. Because we don't know whether they're saved or whether they both die. And because they're dying together, they are dying. So we don't know really what happens. And that open-ended ending really, I don't know. It gets me. I really like the film. I'll probably watch it again. Not today, not tomorrow, probably not this year. But maybe down the line somewhere. I'll even make a video on it. Who knows, I mean, I like the film. It's definitely worth a single watch if you're trying to think of what to watch this month. And I'm sorry for all these spoiler alerts, but if it is probable that you're never going to watch it, you can always skip 20 seconds ahead and I'll be on to rambling about something else. Which is what I'm going to do now, so let's move on. Alright, so the fifth film I watched this month was Twisted. Now, this is a 2004 film, and this is kind of the first film that spiraled off into what became a month-long obsession with Andy Garcia, where I was just watching thrillers, and more thrillers starring Andy Garcia. I don't really know what else to say about this. This is a very bizarre film. Twisted is a very good name for this movie because it is twisted. Yeah, it is. I don't know really what's the plot. I just saw this movie like a week ago, and I already don't remember anything from it. Well, all I remember is that there was this girl, and Samuel L. Jackson is the guy who's raised her. So he's kind of like her, I don't know, stepfather or something. And then I think he's his his father's best friend who had died, so he had raised her. Now, then you have Andy Garcia in his own world, as he is always in a movie. And he's just hilarious in this film. And that's because of how serious he is being. The thing about Andy Garcia is that this film and the film that I saw next, Internal Affairs, were both kind of like, almost like a trance-like experience for me. Because I was in my complete senses. Yes, okay? I am straight edge. I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't smoke, I don't do none of that. So I was in my complete senses. But I didn't really know what was going on the screen. And, I mean, it's just one of those films, Twisted and Internal Affairs, these two. They're both like police thrillers, but they are everything but police thrillers. They're like psychological, they're very bizarre, like Twin Peaks kind of like films. And that's what's weird about Internal Affairs is that it came out before Twin Peaks, and it just has that same feel. Almost every Andy Garcia film has that same feel. Where, as Girly Detective Run has described to me, and now to you guys, that Andy Garcia is basically the same guy in every film. Not That's not a knock on his acting, but just hear me out. That he's the same guy in every film, and that he goes from a 0 to 100 all of a sudden. That's it. And that's the weird thing about this film, where they just kind of like start out of nowhere, and they just blast out into this. I don't know, like his characters are just insane almost. They're as insane as the villain. But in Twisted, okay, let's talk about the plot more here. Even though the plot is something that could be great, but it isn't. First of all, Twisted has a really weird opening. The girl's almost like in a trance. It's kind of like Blade Runner, what they're trying to do with the Blade Runner's opening. And then you have this bizarre girl, and she's trapped in this bizarre situation with some thief, and she's a cop, and then she kicks him all of a sudden and takes control back. But the fact that she could have done that all along but wasn't doing it is also strange. And her character is the kind of person who, she is very lonely, and in order to counter that, she's hyper sexual. And then you have Andy Garcia, who's playing this old guy, not too old, but still old. And this girl is working in the same precinct as him, and they kind of, start falling for each other, even though, you don't really see that coming. I certainly didn't. I thought that maybe there would be something, but the fact that they're going to, risk their lives for each other, I don't know. But the film is very funny to me. I've watched it as a film that I would watch when I can't watch what I actually want to watch. And that's kind of my description for every Andy Garcia film that I've seen this month. They're really bad films, but they could be really, really great. And the problem is, what makes them good is the fact that they're not reaching their potential. So they become these odd films that lie in the middle, where they're not bad, but they're not exceptional as well. They've got some twists, and they keep you hooked, but you can kind of guess it if you just look at it from that outrageous angle. And guess what? If you do, you're going to be right. That's what happened in Twisted. That's what happened in Internal Affairs. I mean, I didn't see what was coming, but, Girly Detective Run, GDR, I'm just going to refer to her from now on, surely did. So, I don't know. I mean, it was pretty strange to me. But these two films are just bizarre, man. And these were the 5th and the 6th films I saw this month. Now, the film that I watched after this was Break Ke Baad, because I had seen so many of these bizarre thrillers and stuff since the beginning of the year, so I wanted to watch something different. And the fact that Break Ke Baad had released on 1st January in 2010, so, 13 years later and whatever. So I thought, well, it's probably something to enjoy. And it wasn't anything to enjoy. I liked the film as long as Imran Khan was on the screen, but Deepika Padukone's character in the film is so annoying. She's so problematic in her behavior. Well, maybe to me, maybe it's just me, but that's what certainly the director has intended as well. And then you've got this couple, and where Imran Khan is basically almost a god. He's almost, a saint. And Deepika Padukone's character is almost a bitch. I'm sorry to say that, guys, but that's the truth. Her character, not her character is insane. It's just completely problematic person. It kind of infuriated my blood almost, to be honest. And I just couldn't take it. So I thought, I watched the film till the end because it's a pretty short film, but it felt like it just completely stressed out. And my expectations of this film was that it would probably not be the best film that I've ever seen, but because Kunal Kohli had produced it, and he's the same guy who worked on that film Hum Tum with Siddharth Anand, that it wouldn't be that bad. That it would be still alright, maybe it's an underrated romance comedy. It isn't. And the soundtrack is average because it's very forgettable. You hear the songs and they sound nice, but then you don't remember what they sounded like. You don't remember if they had any kind of uniqueness to them. And perhaps that's another problem with the film, that its soundtrack fails to, do something special. Except for that one song, Adhure, because that one's catchy. And of course, after that, I watched Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And I don't really know why I ended up watching this. All I know is that, I'm sorry, that's the CM Punk's influence coming into me. I don't really say alls, but I don't know what's happening recently with my, I don't know. I'm a bit weird these days. Anyway, I don't really have much to say about this film because I didn't complete this film, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, because it was so bad to me. The film completely trailed off from the book and just kind of took Victor Frankenstein because Kenneth Branagh, that's how I say his name, I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. A lot of people had pointed out to me personally who know me when I talk about this guy that I'm making him sound French. But I don't know, maybe he is. I'm sorry, I don't know why it's that funny to me. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is a horrible film. This is a horrible picture. This is a horrible motion picture. It trails off completely from its source. I have read Frankenstein, the entire novel. This is completely different, almost completely different. I have not seen the ending, but except for the fact that he makes the monster, everything else is kind of pretentious. Nothing is convincing. You don't feel any emotions. It's not like Titanic where when the ship is crashing down and there's this guy coming through from the snow, you'll feel any emotion. There's nothing there, And this Kenneth Branagh is just so like irritable on the screen in this movie, especially. I mean, I don't hate the guy, but why does he need to put himself into the focus? Like, he's got these scenes where, he's half naked for no reason just to show off his abs that he had been working on, during the movie. Like, I don't need to see this, there's no significance here. Like, what's the point of you doing that? Like, if you're going to be naked, why don't you just, take off the pants as well then and greet the audiences with horror? That's going to be the real horror, I guess, not the movie, but that. But I just didn't like the film at all. It didn't convince me to even a mild extent, and Robert De Niro is just wasted in the film. I have seen, I think, one past the first hour of the film, and it's not that long of a film, so maybe I just missed the last 40 minutes, but I couldn't sit through it. And that's my final statement on the movie. Now, the 9th film I saw this month was The Champagne Murders, and this is one film that I can vouch for. This is one film that I will recommend everybody who can get this film, watch it. Because I have to be honest with you, it's a very short film. It's only 1.5 hours long. And it takes its sweet time. It takes about 1 hour to build up. But that last half an hour is so insane. You cannot predict what is happening. You can't pinpoint exactly who is the culprit in the situation. And you just can't tell exactly who is doing what. Is this a manipulation? Is this a dream? Is this the effect of drugs? Of alcohol? I can't even, like the plot. I don't want to reveal anything about this film. All I can simply say is that this film was brilliant. Anthony Perkins is brilliant, but I'm not saying he's overshadowed, but equaled by all the other actors in the film. The script, the ending especially, is so flawless, it made me think for a long time about what it meant. And though I have not come up with a clear understanding, perhaps the point is that I don't need to, because it's just the madness of that ending. I'm definitely going to make a video on this. This is one of the better Anthony Perkins films, and I just love it. I honestly, I think it's a masterpiece thriller film. I would recommend it, any day. So, The Champagne Murders, amazing picture. Now, the 10th film I saw was Desperate Measures. And, this is another one of those films it's almost like a TV movie, in a sense. That it's shot like a TV movie. It feels like a TV movie. But it stars Michael Keaton and Andy Garcia. I mean, these are two pretty big names, especially in 1998. These were big actors. And I mean, they still are, but at that time, they were in their prime. And the film is almost genius sometimes, and then it's almost really bad sometimes. You've got this guy who's got a sick son, and his kidney has to be, I think there's a kidney transplant that needs to take place. And the match is this serial killer in prison. And he uses them, he exploits them, he does all these, crazy explosives in his escape. And he uses this, guy and his son as a ploy to kind of make his escape, but then he has a sense of morality. There's certainly hints that he had probably gotten in prison for a crime that he didn't even commit, or maybe he did, but it was justified to him. Perhaps what my guess was is that the film is about a lot of issues with parents, with father especially. So the serial killer must have had issues with his own father and might have murdered him. I'm not sure exactly. And probably that's why he was in prison for all this time. And then there's this father himself who comes on, and then he's asking him for the kidneys. So he tests him almost. To what extent can he go in order to, provide for his son? How much does he really love him? Does he love him more than his own life? He certainly loves him more than anybody else's life, because so many people die for that kid to live, and that's an actual line in the movie. That's not me, that's the screenwriter who literally said that in the film. But it's a good film, and the ending with that bridge scene and of going up, I mean, that's just perfect timing. Anybody would be blessed to have that come, to reality. But I like the film. Now, after this, I saw The Glass Menagerie, and it's bizarre how I came across this film, how I came across, the entire film. But I saw this actually on YouTube. It was in 2 parts, and it was an upload by somebody who just posts some rare stuff. And I know that there's a lot of Glass Menagerie adaptations, but for some reason, when I searched for The Glass Menagerie and this adaptation came up, I just happened to click on it out of instinct and nothing else, And I have to say, I absolutely was in awe of the picture. I just couldn't believe that. How is this movie not considered one of the best films of all time? Not for just the fact that The Glass Menagerie is an excellent play by Tennessee Williams, but just the performances of each actor. I mean, I knew that Katharine Hepburn, the name itself, the Hepburn name, is in itself iconic. So I knew that the actress was big, who played Amanda Wingfield, the mother. And then you had Sam Waterston, who resonated the looks of Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, like he just had that look to him of $1 million guy. And he just played it so well. And then you had the character of Laura. The actress, I've not searched about her at all. I don't want to know, because to me, she's Laura. And she's just magnificent in the film. She's insanely, like, you can't take your eyes off of her. Not in the way that she's pretty or anything. Not to say that she isn't as well these days. You have to be careful. But anyway, but not to say that. But the fact that she just kind of like encapsulated the essence of the character of Laura, who's the most important character in the entire play. And she did it in such a brilliant way where she didn't overdo anything but underplayed it. And that was the key, because the play in itself kind of underplays everything. It's very subtle. It's in those little things where you can see how tensed Amanda Wingfield is when she's saying to her son Tom that he can sit anywhere, and then when he goes to sit, she stops him. And like, that's the anxiety that she has about even the littlest things. And Tom's own, sense of insecurity, where he reveals his entire life's plan to Jim in a second, when Jim is saying that, you and me are not cut for the factory that we work at. The setting, and you can tell that the film in itself looks like a televised play, which is what it is, technically. But with just how brilliantly it is done, the odd look, and especially the grainy, old, noise-filled screen look, I think if I had this film in complete Blu-ray HD, I perhaps wouldn't like it as much as I like it with that dirt old look that it has. And that bizarre, like outer scenes where they're not in the room. And the rest of the film just takes place in the entire room. This is a film after The Man from Earth that I have watched in this lifetime of mine that I can say truthfully now belongs in top 10 movies that I've ever seen. Not for the sake that it's anything exceptional, but for the sake of how brilliant it is at what it sets us to do. It's got a plan, and the execution is exactly matching to what was the plan. And that's what makes it a great motion picture. And not just a great motion picture, but a great project, a great attempt, a great task, where what you expect is what you have, executed. And for that sole reason alone, this film now belongs in my top 10 movies. And I'm not just saying that out of any dramatic reasons to, excite you guys or try to make this series important. I really genuinely feel that way. I don't know what rank, but this is the only film that I can put alongside The Man from Earth. And I never thought in my lifetime that would actually occur. But it has. And it's just great. I absolutely love the film. I will definitely make a video on it in the future. Don't know when, but I'm really reading up about the class menagerie, reading up articles, journals, reading about Tennessee Williams in general. So maybe I'll come up with a video that, I don't know. I'll see. Now, after this, I watched Jennifer 8. And this was kind of, going back to the old Andy Garcia stuff. I know there's a lot of Andy Garcia this month. But this film, I actually really love this film's look. That's what I precisely love the most. The film looks brilliant. It's beautiful. It's got that brown and blue look, like that dirt and that skyish look to it. And it's absolutely fantastic in how great this film is. Anyway, let me just take a little break here. I've got a double chocolate milkshake in a can. Sorry for that. Anyway, so the Jennifer 8 film, it's a film that could have been, again, really, really great, like all Andy Garcia films. And don't expect him to play anything different here. He still plays a cop, and he still plays that weird 0 to 100 guy. And there's this really funny scene where this guy is saying to him, "You got a lousy life with a lousy wife." And it's just hilarious. And his reaction, oh God, I mean, it's just A class. It's just awesome. But I still wouldn't recommend this film. And that's for the reason that it's edited horribly. I mean, they gave so much time to scenes that were so unnecessary. I feel like I think there's a 15-minute long scene where Andy Garcia, all he's doing is he's going into a house, he's walking up, he's going to a drawer, he's opening up the drawer, he's looking at photos, then he's laying down. I mean, whew, man, this is a thriller, Don't put me to sleep here. If you're going to do that kind of thing, then at least have some kind of build-up to it. That it's a big thing, but they don't. They just kind of cut to it. And guess how long is the ending? 30 seconds. That's all it takes. They go, they're running, they get caught. Now she's saying, "I remember red." Like, what is that supposed to mean? Or "I remember roses" or something? I don't know. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's trying to be really philosophical. It's trying to have a lot of meanings to it. But it just doesn't work because it's ridiculous. And that's what the entire film is like. It's just a ridiculous piece of fudge. I can't even speak my words right. What has this milkshake done to me? Anyway, it's not a good film. It could have been great, but I would still recommend it to you if you want to just watch a really predictable, cozy up, bizarre mystery thriller. Then go for it. But the ending is going to disappoint you. The whole film is in itself a disappointment. I guess Jennifer 8 was the film that really put the nail into the coffin. And really into the coffin, not, in the coffin. Like, really into it. Very deep. my fever of Andy Garcia kind of ended here because after this, I remember I tried watching two different films. I think first one was Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, which I thought was a very, very, very bad title because it would have sounded cooler. I don't know what it was about. I don't know. And anyway, and the second thing that I saw after that was some other films starring him, and then I just couldn't take it. Oh yeah, Night Falls on Manhattan. And I couldn't take it, you know? As Bret Hart would say, I can't take it. And I couldn't take it, really. And I just got bored of it. And what I did was, I just sort of moved on from there on out, and haven't seen an Andy Garcia film since, although it's only been a couple of days. So, this will include until the films that I've seen until 21st January. Now, the last two films that I saw in the third week, before the third week of January, were two more there called The Ninth Gate and after that Fracture. But I'll be including those in next month's list because I kind of saw them in a transition of the same day. So without getting my memories mixed up, I felt rather vague and I was rather sleepy during both of them, even though I thought that the film Fracture was still really good and only because of Anthony Hopkins. If anybody else was in that movie, it would have been really bad. And these are the two films that I saw, but if I am going to talk about them in detail, they'll probably be in next month's What I Watched video. So based on how this one does, I'll continue the series and I'll give it a try, and I hope you guys like it. So, I'll see you next month in this series. Until then, watch more MDR content, go on GDR, which just newly launched. You can check out some shorts there if you don't have as much time to watch MDR. Or if you want to watch MDR but you can't look at the screen for too long, then you can play one of these longer videos and still have fun. MDR is really bringing you all kinds of content on YouTube. So please support us and please, please, please be kind to each other. And I'm not like Ellen just saying that. I'm really sorry. Yeah, but anyway, take care of yourselves and I'll see you in the next episode of this series next month. Until then, I'll keep posting new MDR episodes and woohoo, everything's looking nice. Let's go.